Good morning and welcome back. Welcome back to Who Am I? That program where every day we ask the question and every day we ponder the answer. We think about this. Actually, what it really is this is an exercise in broader perspective, context. We live in a context bigger than just the one that surrounds us individually. Ours is unique and huge, and as is everyone else's. And when you add it all together, then that's the context. But uh, it's very helpful to ponder broader perspective. We are encased in a larger movie that has been going on for a while. You don't even have to have boned up on all the details of history to just ponder the idea of history starts giving you the sense that, uh, I am in a bigger movie. It's not just my own story in this movie. It's my own story is embedded in this larger story that's embedded in a larger story that's embedded in a larger story until you get all the way out to the size of the universe. Or you can constrict down, 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 down to the size of you. And actually quite a bit lower. You're made up of some 50 trillion cells. Each one of them is actually an autonomous, individually self-ambulating, or let's see, what was the term I wanted to use? Autonomously ambulating cells. Each one of them an autonomously ambulating soul. A little itty bitty vector of impetus, you might say. A vector of impetus. So who am I in all of this? Well, I'll tell you one thing for sure, no question about it. We are all in this together. There's that one is inescapable. And that one is going to lead us to looking at it that way does lead to a lot of answers. We are all in this together. And what helps you helps me. What helps me helps you. We all do better when we all do better. And there is a solution to all of our problems. We do abide in a universe of grace and beneficence when we understand how it works and operate it correctly. When you are ignorant of how it works and operate it unconsciously or by default, the ride can get really rough. I mean, really, really rough. One of the things, one of the hallmarks of this show, or my position, I am this show. There isn't anybody else. This is basically me doing an exercise in who am I, as I look around the world and try to ponder my own existence and figure out how to operate my machinery in this vast world of complexity. So, I know I was driving to a specific. I was heading up the gap to a specific description of something, and I've kind of lost it. I'm on the esoteric edge of. Sometimes when you get way out there, if you lose the thread, it's difficult because you weren't on a lot of solid ground as you walked in. You can't think back and go, Oh, let's see. I was talking about cars, and oh yeah, yeah, that's really cool. It's different than that. So anyway, this is really an exercise in me understanding who I am and where I am placed on the grid. Where's my position on the grid? Just in space and time. I mean, it's not a cast. I don't imagine it as a cast configuration. It's uh, let me start again. Not completely, because I'm over 5 minutes into the show. I just mean, let me just back up and hit it again. The question is, who am I? And how does this work? What's the object of the exercise? That's a really important question. Object of the exercise. Very high up on the operating system. Imagine that your consciousness configuration is rather like a computer. However, it's an organic computer. It's not exactly like, it's not like AI. This is like real intelligence, but it works very similar. There is an analogy, a really strong analogy to a computer, but you got to get your systems lined up because you have two minds. Did you know that? You have two minds. One of them you probably didn't know about. I mean, you know about it in a way, but you've never thought about it as your mind. You've thought about it as something like God, or I'm not sure what other words you might have used besides that, but, you know, that concept, you may not have realized that that's actually an invisible aspect of your own mind. It's a vibrational aspect of your own mind that's running independent of you because it's reverberating with the rest of the machinery of the universe out there. And without constraint, there's no physical aspect of it other than it's anchored to your physical body. But not really. I mean, it is, and it's also, it doesn't end at your physical body, and it isn't just your physical body. I mean, everybody else is in on this too from their position. But anyway, the thing is you have two minds. One of your allotment, your share, your slice, your piece of it, your piece of this vibrational mind is thinking with you. So you know of your physical mind. That's the one you know about. That's the one that you have conscious control over. That's the one you have conscious control over. And that's the one with the free agency and all of the important stuff that you've heard about. That's your physical mind. And it's coming from your physical body, from your physical brain, inside your physical skull. But you have another mind. And this one is attached vibrationally to all of the universe and holographically connected with literally all the information. Every bit of all the information is contained at every point. So well, mathematically, because the universe is holographic, that's how come it would make sense that you have an aspect of yourself that can read that, you know? That can read that vibrational information. And what it is, so the building block of the universe, at first we were thinking atom, but atom's not the right choice you have to get all the way down to the Planck. And actually, the Planck is what it's all made of. And what's a Planck? It's like the smallest wavelength of frequency, like a little zap of energy, a wavelength as small as you can get in this particular universe. If you want to go smaller, you've got to go down to the sub-Planck. It's like another factor down, you know, a whole factor down. And all of these Plancks are touching one another, are communicating their information to each other through this jiggle of space-time, where the universe is transferring all of its information. Sorry, I'm scratching my eye. Through this, it's everything interacting with everything all the time, all at once. Through this, it's what makes the universe holographic. Anyway, you are these two selves. You are these two selves. You do have this other aspect of yourself, and it will explain to you, if you didn't know about this, if you weren't owning it as though it's yours. It is yours, and it is you, and it's wanting what you want, and it's pulling you in the direction of what you want. But you've got to tune into it and listen to it. And what it sounds like when you get there, it doesn't sound like, it does sound like passion, but a passion in a kind of fullness and groundedness and understanding and peace. It's not a blind, joyful, manic, energetic thrust that it kind of is, but that's not really what you're looking for. I think that moves the ball along, but is not fully what we're looking for. I think that the fully that you're looking for is a very satisfied, very grounded, contented, loving, peaceful, energetic, idea-filled, eager, interested, alive kind of energy. That's ultimately what you're looking for. But I haven't found I haven't gotten to that point yet. I'm hanging around still, right around, let me just remind myself. I really don't mean to. I have been trying to move around the slides less, so that my show doesn't feel so much the same to me. You know, every time I put up the same slide, I think, oh, there it is, same damn show. But it's not, because I say different things different times. Although my theme is always the same. My theme is that we're all right. We're all in this together. We need to cooperate and coordinate. But I also try to bring in the meaning of the dark things, because we can't underestimate this whole scene, its ability to go sideways. Because it can and it will, and the sideways goes all the way. That needle of sideways goes all the way to Holocaust, and we can't underestimate it. However, you've got to understand what energy it is that takes you all the way sideways. It's when you decide to move on your outrage. When you decide to ambulate, to lock in and ambulate from your negative emotions, and then a whole bunch of other people join you in what looks like a good idea, but from the impulses of negative emotion, you're not going where you want to go. You're going in the opposite direction of where you want to go. Now, the only thing good about going in the opposite direction of where you want to go is it makes it more clear where you really want to go. And that's important, because if we would get to a place of pure clarity on where we want to go, we'd just go. And we wouldn't be in any kind of questioning place, which I think we kind of are. I don't think we really understand. Some do, but all of us could have a better collective understanding of the point where we all meet. Well, all of us could do better. The reason I paused about, the truth of the matter is right in this moment, there is wisdom everywhere. It is just pouring out of the woodwork, rising in the field like yeast in the dough. The wisdom is everywhere right now. As I say these things in this studio, in this show, I am not for a minute suggesting that I am a savior of some sort that knows things that others do not, that, all of my ideas are just fresh and brand new, and they aren't. The only thing I'm doing is just adding everything together. So it may not even sound like anything to you, because, I just keep putting out one idea after another that you've already heard of before. But I'm trying to tell you that it adds up in your own consciousness in a very special way. In a very orderly and logical way. And we have the order inside of our internal operating system. There are concepts up at the top of the grid, up at the top of the program. Things like, what's the object of the exercise? Who am I? Is actually way up there. Who am I? What's the object of the exercise? What are my primary assumptions about the laws of the universe around me? What's actually happening? Is it he who dies with the most toys wins? Is it survival of the fittest? Is it kill or be killed? Is it because every time you plug a different one of those in, the data out is completely different. And so it behooves us to ponder, as a species, as a physical being, what actually is my design? Am I designed to compete or to cooperate? Actually, the answer is both. Ultimately, we are in a cooperative dance, in a cooperative field with many, 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 many other souls. And so the bigger game is to cooperate and coordinate and synergize and harmonize and find your way in a field of many, not, violently not just competition, but conflict with everything around you. That's not the way. And in actual fact, I've been studying the phenomenon of Hitler, the Nazis, and that whole debacle back last century. I've been studying it for all my life in one way or another. Passively interested sometimes, actively interested at other times. There's been a couple of really good shows that have come out. One just this year. I don't think the other one came out this year, but it wasn't that long ago. But there's been some good stuff that has come out, and really good shows on Masterpiece and such that, show from an experiential, like, really good, some for instances and some good angles on what it might have looked like to live in Europe somewhere, usually based in Britain, because it's British television that brings us these wonderful, wonderful masterpiece theater. Things like Foyle's War and such. Love that show. Now, they don't focus on the Nazis, but the Nazis, Hitler and the Nazis, are the reason we fought World War II. If it had not been Hitler's ambitions of conquest of the world and to enslave all other races to their master race, if it wasn't for that ambition, we wouldn't have gone into World War II. Didn't just happen. Although there were lots of forces, at play. You can't actually blame it on Hitler. Although what I said, I'm going to stand by it in a way. The fact is that we're all playing a part in a larger pattern. And something had to happen in order for us to get away from some very constricted and what would be a good word? Choked down. Constricted is good. Behaviors. World War II broke us out of a lot of things. Certain rigid racial policies, as well as misogynistic or not misogynist, the other word, prejudice against women, that we weren't allowed to work. That war changed everything, and it was hard to put the genie back in the bottle. They had to allow women to work to help us win the war. And then when the war was over, there was an effort to get them all to go back to home and, be obedient. Lucy Ricardo's, she wasn't all that obedient. But things were never the same. And we have been incrementally changing much faster than we were doing before. We weren't changing very fast. Those wars were almost like think of it as like an earthquake of change, because time was going by, the expansion was happening, and we weren't allowing it. Things weren't changing on the outside fast enough. And so it would build up like on a fault line. And if it built up long enough, then when that thing changed, oh my God, the whole world heaved. I got all kinds of ideas about what I think those world wars were, how I perceive them to be focused energy in a negative direction, with all of us resonating and agreeing on this us versus them paradigm, this otherness, otherizing and villainizing, demonizing, and then all of us collectively acting on it. And it was awful. It was awful, awful, awful. Now, World War II was a slightly different thing. It was the same thing in a way, but there was a hyper concentrated focus of negative energy at the center of one side of it. And I'm talking about Hitler and the Nazis. But I don't want to get into an argument about stuff, because this evil energy was everywhere, all over the planet. Certainly not Stalin and all of his regime was committing plenty of evil. What is the meaning of evil? What is wickedness? Because I maintain that all is light. Even those who are wicked, even the most wicked amongst us, who are causing the most suffering and harm, that in actual fact, at their core, they are not evil. The problem, even Hitler himself, he was not born evil. He was just born somebody's little baby. you know? And he went out into the world and he had a tough time. He fought in World War One. You know, do I really want to talk about Hitler? I was talking yesterday. Hitler is so hyperbolic that it's a difficult analogy to give anybody to tell them the meaning of the Hitler story. A lot of people know the Hitler story from all kinds of different directions of outrage and horror, or even the ones the neo-Nazis, who might revere his vision, and maybe his only problem was he didn't quite finish the job or something. I don't know. It's a difficult analogy to make, but actually, it's so stark. It's actually a good one. The show that came out in 2024 that's so good that I've been watching a couple of times. It's called Hitler and the Nazis, I think, and it's over on Netflix. And it's a very nice. It's a good perspective. Now, it still is horrified and outraged about the whole thing, but it comes at the analysis of what happened and how it happened and why it happened, from a very logical standpoint. Now, it does not, in the end, it does not make any kind of claims like I'm going to make, like these were all human beings, you know. These evil men they started out all ordinary. What happened? What the hell is this phenomenon? Because I think that it is a standard human pattern. And it just plays out on different stages because the specifics of the time are always different. But this propensity to not to what it is it's the phenomenon is head and heart not connected. Head and heart not connected. This was Hitler's problem. His head and his heart were not connected. And that was it's the poisonous pill at the core of it all. It actually could not have stood for any length of time because of this poison in the structure. The head not being connected to the heart is not it's not a sustainable pattern. Paul Levy's going to call it Wetiko. It's a psychic mind virus. Carl Jung had words for different aspects of the phenomenon. There was one thing was autonomous complexes, but I'm not sure if that exactly applies to the Hitler phenomenon. If it does, then his autonomous complex was just like his whole self minus his heart was over there. But you know, he did love things. His heart was in there somewhere. His physical mind just had it so wrong. His physical mind did not understand the way the field works. He had it in his head all kinds of other things. He thought that stuff like it was necessary to be in eternal conflict with the world around you, that if you and your race did not actively compete with the world around you and struggle and strive to own the land and the resources and all that, then others would sweep you away. And so it was absolutely vital that you were always actively in competitive conflict with the world around you. Well, that's a recipe for disaster, because that's not the way it works. That's how you get yourself drummed right out of the game. Because it's not competition that you need to be in with the world around you. It's cooperative, co-creative dancing that you need to be harmonizing, synergizing, that's what you need to be doing with the field around you. And if you can't get along with your neighbors, then and all of the stuff that they were doing, the slave labor and the wealth through theft and such, that only takes you so far. Idi Amin did exactly the same thing. He had this idea because he's looking around his country and he's trying to keep his despotic authoritarian rule going. And he's like, well, where is all the stuff? Who's got all the stuff? And he looks around and he notices that most of the shopkeepers are Asians. They're from India. They're Asians. They were brought in to complete the railroad for the British, and they stayed. And they're good at running shops, and they like to run shops, and they have the kinds of thought processes and family traditions and stuff. They put everybody to work in the family in the shop, and they're just good at it. And so they own a lot of the stuff, kind of the way Jews did. They were prosperous. They were successful. Doctors and lawyers and writers and shopkeepers and bankers, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But anyway, Idi Amin looks around Uganda and he sees that the Asians have all the stuff. And he wants Africa for the Africans. Why do the Asians have all the stuff? They're ruining the country, he thinks, because they're taking all the stuff. And so he kicks them all out of the country. That happened. We were in neighboring Kenya when that happened. Very interesting. So a lot of them come through Kenya on their way to, some of them I think might have been allowed to settle in Kenya, but they wouldn't have all been allowed to just settle in Kenya because that would have been very disruptive. Most of them had dual passports. They had British dual passports. And so, if not all of them, so a lot of them made their way to England. That's why there's lots of Asians in England now, a lot of Indians. That serves England right for all the crap they did to India. That's why they've got all kinds of Indians in their country now. So anybody who doesn't like that, well, that's what causes that. That sort of mean-spirited the colonial mindset is actually what caused that. Anyway, so my point was, Idi Amin kicked all the Asians out of Africa and stole their stuff, made them leave all their stuff behind. And so then he took all their stuff and he gave it to all of his men and stuff, all of his followers. Here's cars and land and shops and stuff. And now all of the Africans need to get in there and run the shops. Well, everybody left didn't know how to run the shops because they hadn't been running the shops. It's a vibrational world. You don't just, from the outside, just move it around without realizing that it settled into where it was vibrationally. It did that. It's sort of the same reason how come when you, if a hoarder themselves doesn't change their behavior and be actively involved in the act of the cleanup, that once somebody else can come in and clean up the space for that hoarder or that whatever, that person who had that garage. I'm thinking about something very specific to my own personal experience right now. If somebody else just comes in and cleans up, that they'll just start the same behavior over again, and given any amount of time, they'll just be in the same place that they were before. They'll just hoard themselves back into a cluttered life and I know that's what's going to happen in my garages. I'm having my garages cleaned out, but probably given another 13 years, they're going to be just as awful as they are right now. But that may not be true because they never were organized. We moved into this place and everything just went in as boxes. And the tools were never organized, and the ingredients were never organized. And then so there was never an organization that was kept. But anyway, the point of it is you can't just do that. You can't just order things around from the outside. They are settling into place by way of a vibration. A vibration is doing that. And I know that there was an analogy to Hitler there. Hitler is just he's just so fascinating to watch that whole thing play. It was so naive on everybody's part. I've got to use the word naive because people didn't really realize that it could go to that point. None of the people watching it, all the correspondents and the viewers, everybody, sitting back and watching that thing unfold, they had no idea that human beings would go that far. They thought that we were better than that. And it's not better or worse. We're just fine. The problem is not understanding the equipment. That's what the problem is. And so I suppose that was the original impetus for me to come into this show, because I felt like I was walking around in a world that I could see the patterns. I can see what's happening. I recognize what the problem is here. And yet, I'm kind of a hermit. I don't have connections or even a Facebook presence or a internet, I have no reasonable way of gently communicating to the field around me a recognition of what's going on so that they can understand what's going on, so that they can quit doing it. Quit driving us to sixth mass extinction. Do you know what that means? So we have identified our geologists or anthropologists or paleontologists or whoever the scientists are that study the history of the Earth, the long-range history of planet Earth, have identified that at 5 other times in history, like 95% of life on Earth was killed. Now, I'm not sure exactly what that looked like. Whether they're talking about vegetation too, whether they're talking about biodiversity or absolute biomass. Like, I don't know how to what extent they were caused by different things. Asteroids hitting the Earth and causing nuclear winter events, or volcanoes, massive. There was a volcano in the area of Mount St. Helens that I don't know how many years ago, 800,000, 8 million, I'm not sure exactly what the time period is. I don't think it's 8 million. I think it's way, 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 way less than that. Erupted and blanketed the Earth with a nuclear winter, and many, 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 many things died out. Well, 5 times before now, this has happened, and it's never been human beings that caused it. But this time, human beings are causing it. Now, you may look around and go, I don't see, 90% of life dead. It's because there's still a mantle of vegetation around a great deal of the planet, but biodiversity is being lost, as well as vegetation too. Desertification is happening. This time it's all human behavior. This time it's all human behavior. And, which means that it's something we can control. But we have to understand it. We have to understand who we are, what's happening. And furthermore, I don't think we have to understand it so much from a negative point of view, although that's been important. We have to now come at it from a positive point of view. And how do you come at it from a positive point of view? Yay, sixth mass extinction. Ooh, what an opportunity. That's not what I mean. The positive perspective, the way to come at this is what it is. The way to come at this, let me see what time it is. Because I got things I got to do this morning. I have to take irrigation this morning. Yay! It rained a little bit, so there's water in the ditch for a minute. I'm going to get a little bit of it. Then if it doesn't rain again right away, it'll probably go out of the ditch, and it'll be a while before we get it back. Hold on. So how do we come at this from a positive point of view? So I'll tell you what the positive is. This is the really, really, really good news. In the midst of all the gloom and doom, I've talked to for 40 minutes about Hitler and, whatever. The really, really good news, though, is that we live in a universe of absolute magical wonder. Absolute wonder. It is a wish-fulfilling machine. When you understand the laws of the universe and how the frequencies work and how resonance works and how the holographic nature works and how focus and attention works and how your overview, your vibrational guidance system, your GPS basically unto this life, how it works and how perfectly it is designed, then you understand how blessed we are. We live in a universe that is so cool. It can fix this little problem that we have created on planet Earth. It really isn't. It's a temporary problem. Sometimes I get a little anxious when I start realizing, because I live in the future. I live in a sort of in a world where I can see where we're going. I know where we're going. I absolutely know where we're going without a shadow of a doubt. But then I look around and I go, yeah, but it's not here yet. And then I'm like, yeah, but it's coming. It's coming. It's absolutely coming. And there is so much opportunity every step of the way. This is going to be a great deal of fun. It's going to be a lot more fun when more of us get there and I can play with this more. I need people to play with me in the understanding of this, in the moving from where we are to where we want to be. That's the part I am really excited about. And this show, even for me, is like an opportunity. It's like me grasping this moment. Who am I? So, what do I want to say? What needs to be said? I have at least another half an hour. I have another half an hour until my alarm goes off. And then I have to call my husband. He's got to get up and go play golf. And I've got to go take irrigation. But I don't have to take it that soon because there's only two of us. Why do I say these things on the show? It's because I feel like this microphone is like somebody I'm talking to. You know? And on the one hand, I'm talking about big things. And on the other hand, I'm just a little person talking from a small position. And that's actually part of the secret of all of this. There is huge in the small. Did you know that? There is huge in the small. And it's because of the holographic nature of the universe. And so I think I am going to change slides. I like this slide. I made it just last week. This one is the one that represents, well, this is showing how a conventional hologram is created. And the idea is you can see this device looks like the handle of a lightsaber or something, is putting out a laser beam, and then at a point it's split, and one side goes off and scans an apple, and then hits a photographic plate, and then the other one hits a mirror and then hits the photographic plate, and those two beams come back together and interfere with one another. And it's through the interference pattern that allows the hologram to be a thing. Now all of the information of the apple is everywhere in the picture. So if you cut that in half, instead of having a picture of half an apple, you shine a laser beam back through the hologram, and all the information of all the apple is still there because it's scattered across the whole field through that interference pattern. And that's how the universe is holographic. There's an interference pattern everywhere that contains the whole thing. All of the parts are uploading their information to the whole, and the whole is downloading all of its information down to all of the parts. And that's how you get the big in the small. I don't know. So who am I? And what does all this mean to me? Well, I'll tell you, it means a lot of things. Do I want to go back to the same slide? I'm not sure where I was. I wasn't there. Where was I? It's right before Big Tree. Where's that one? AI Church? Nope, I don't know. I think I'll go to... hold on. I decided to change the scene for a minute. So who am I? And what does all of this mean to my life? Well, what I was going to say, the first thing it means is ultimately you need to transform your negative emotions before you act on them. I'm not saying that your negative emotions are wrong. They are telling you, they're informing you about something out there in the world that you don't care for. For instance, my trigger buttons are things like drowning polar bears and orphaned elephants and food dogs in Korea and, the Holocaust even, sixth mass extinction, human suffering, non-human suffering. Those are my triggers, right? Everybody's got them. But I cannot act to assist that situation unless I can find a positive position from myself. Unless I can, from my own side, I have to be positive. I can't be negative. If I'm negative, then the impulses that I'm taking from source are bass backwards. They are in reverse. They're incorrect. They are not in alignment. They are not harmonized. They are not, I have crossed my own energy stream, and at the second I do that, I create a kind of shadow energy field in the world, in the field. And it's not me. And if I am walking around acting from this position, it's like I have let a demon drive my vehicle. It's just like that. Now, that doesn't make me bad. Ultimately, I am the light inside of this system. I am the light. And so if I am acting from a negative emotion and letting demons drive my HBV, my human being vehicle, that doesn't mean that I'm bad. I'm just inside there somewhere, not being the one who's acting. I need to be the one who acts in this world. I do not need to let a negative me act. Negative me is not me. Negative me is me twirled around. That's what all this means. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things we can agree on that we don't like. I don't like war. I don't like sex mass extinction. I don't like growing deserts. I don't like non-sustainable human beings. I don't like children starving. I don't like neighbors fighting. I don't like any of those things. I don't like people not understanding the needs of other animals and then mistreating them. I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. Doing it intentionally or doing meanly or doing it just unintentionally but unconsciously and obliviously or however. I don't like any of that. Don't like any of that. But what am I going to do about it? I don't like the MAGA movement. There's something that clangs harshly about it. But the things that it is saying, in some ways, everything comes from a good place. And the stuff that looks bad is stuff that's gotten twisted around. And so we've got to untwist it. There is baby everywhere. There is bathwater everywhere. You've got to discern the name of the game is focus on the baby. Focus on the baby. And there is baby everywhere. Now, it has been very improper to ever try to find any baby in the bathwater that was that Nazi shit show last century. The Third Reich and all that. It's been very improper to spot anything that was... So I'm not even going to say that this was good, because I don't know how this would work. How you could do this. For just a minute, in a way, the Third Reich worked. The trains ran on time anyway, and everybody went back to work in a world where the whole rest of the planet was in a deep depression. And everybody... There was full unemployment, and then there was full employment quickly. Now, I can see lots of flaws in that. I actually can see lots of flaws in that, because anybody who wasn't capable of working, then there was so much evil wrapped up in that. But when everybody followed a leader that they believed in. Actually, a lot of the stuff that the unison of the German action, and not all of it looked bad. You know, a lot of it was people exercising and dancing and working and playing. I'm talking about the full, the Germans with full rights. I'm not talking about the races that they enslaved, because all of that is a completely different story. And adds to, I'm not saying that anything about the whole package worked. And I'm not advising that authoritarianism is a good idea, because that's what it was. And their whole position was, aren't you glad we don't live in a democracy? Isn't it wonderful that we have a leader with vision that we can follow? And something about that worked. We do well with leaders. Actually, I don't know if that's the right word. I'm not sure that we do well with leaders, but we do have a tendency to do that, don't we? The problem was this particular leader did not really understand the laws of the universe. He did not understand that there was no such thing as one person who is better than another person. We are all in this together. And even if you are misaligned and misbehaving, that does not mean that you're not as good as somebody else. It just means that you need help to find your alignment. And if we ever follow another dear leader, it would be nice if we would follow someone who understood the laws of the universe. And I'll tell you, I'm pretty sure that I really don't know if anybody in the political arena understands the laws of the universe. They're all wrapped up in an us and them paradigm. Even the ones on the better side, I still think that they're in an us and them paradigm, and they point to the others who are on the not so good side, and they otherize them because it's so obvious that they're the ones that are the problem. But it's the otherizing itself that's the problem, people. There is no us and them. There is only us. There is only us. There is only one of us here, and she is mankind. I like the way I just said that, because did you see how I got both genders in there? Yeah, she is mankind. So anyway, what are the laws of the universe? We have them from Abraham. You have the laws of the universe being, you're a vibrational being in a vibrational universe, and the steps of creation are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 is getting good at step 3, and 5 is back in step 1, and you're not mad. So it's really only step 1, 2, 3. Step 1, you ask. Step 2, source answers. Step 3, you get into alignment with the answer, so that you can find the impulses that will lead you to the answer that source has given. Ask and it is given. That means all of the problems that human beings have on the planet today, all the ones that I always tell you, are solvable. Every one of them solvable, because source has answered. How do we solve the problem? You have to get into the frequency of the answer. You can't keep banging the drum of the problem, or you just stay in the vibration of the problem. So Bashar has some other, they're almost like laws of the universe, but it's more like the five immutable things, facts about the universe that cannot be changed. And they are as follows. Number 1, you exist. You exist. You will always exist. There is nothing you can do to change that. You are a permanent front row seat to the parade, people. Number 2, Everything is here and now. There is nothing you can do to change that. Now that means that in every given moment, as you look around you, you have 100% of everything you need in this moment to take the next step that you need to take to move your life down the way. I don't know. Everything exists here and now. There is nothing you can do to change that. The one is all, and the all are one. It is holographic. There is oneness. That's why you have everything around you, because it's a full package everywhere. It's a matrix of wholeness. So cool. There's nothing you can do to change that. Here's another one. What you put out is what you get back, because it is a reverberating, reflective universe. It's a big mirror, a big fractal mirror, and you can, through this mirror system, you can reflect the wholeness. Well, whatever. The universe is responding to your signal, is responding to you with impulses to act and and if you get out of alignment with your own equipment, then the impulses that you get will be bass-ackward. Anyway, what you put out is what you get back. There is nothing you can do to change that. If you want the universe to smile at you, if you want to live in a smiling universe, you've got to smile. What you put out is what you get back. And the last one is everything changes except for the laws. There is nothing you can do to change that. I got other stuff here too. Oh, I got all kinds of notes. I kind of take the poetic and the emotional, I don't know, the poetic, and I turn it into the abstract instead. The reason I believe in God is because the universe is mathematically holographic. That's how come you can trust it. Because it's all the way down to the math. And if you're going to believe in authoritarian, he better be in alignment. But you know what? Any forced authoritarian system would never be in alignment. It can't be in alignment. Not an authoritarian. Now, you can follow a leader, but it has to be that kind of system where each and every individual within the system is absolutely free to go whatever direction that they want. I mean, that it's all voluntary, that the beings within the system, the beings within the system are following the guidance of the dear leader voluntarily, and if they don't want to, they don't have to. And so it behooves the administration to convince everybody, because you're not allowed to force everybody. Now, in our country, we kind of have a mixed bag. We have a whole lot of things that generally, if you stay in alignment with yourself, you stay peaceful, you are cooperative, loving, kind, coordinating with the field around you, you're reasonable, peaceful, reasonable, and all of that. Here in my country, generally you stay free. So that's good. Now, there's many things that you're free to a point, but we are forced to do certain things. It would never be right to force people to I feel myself jumping around now. So let me back up. We can always back up to the question, who am I? And I haven't mentioned this today, but one of my big points that I always make is that my agenda is two-pronged. The first one is, I've been covering it all morning, the meaning of your emotions, the configuration of your being, the holographic nature of the universe, the quantum field, all of that, all of that. But there's another aspect, and that is source energy itself, and the way that we power our civilization today on fossil fuels, which we absolutely must stop doing. And we really want to stop doing it, because the world we create from that position is going to be so much more fun than the one we've got going on right now. The paradigm of fossil fuels is beginning to bake into the cake the scarcity that we are all starting to experience. There just isn't enough currency to vitalize the system the way we need to. Everybody wants to be online. Everybody wants to be plugged in. Everybody wants to control their climate control in their own environment so that they can be comfortable. Everybody wants to have machinery so that they can run their own little farms, so that they can grow their own food without, oxen and plows and farm hands. And I mean, back in the olden days, it was hard. It was hard. We've got all the machinery now. We got technology. Everybody can do it on their own now. But we need power. We need power. We need energy. And so what are we doing? Fossil fuels? Are you kidding me? It's so lazy. It's so lazy. Let's understand source energy. Ask and it is given, people. That means we've got the answer. There is an answer. And the answer, by the way, is never to go backwards. Never a forced backwards position. Oh, we've all got to go back to the good old days when we were an agrarian society. You know what? We're not going back. We're not going back. We're going on. And it's not going to be, we're not going to end up in a dark, post-apocalyptical hellscape. At least I don't think we are. Because the design of this universe is so wonderful, so magical. We are surrounded by God force. The almighty matrix is cooperative. It is it is harmony. It is symphony. It is peace and love and glorious togetherness. Look at that from inside of your mind. See it inside of your mind. See it inside of your heart. Know it to be true vibrationally. It absolutely is. Now, you can look around you and you can spot all kinds of evidence to the contrary. As a matter of fact, if you study things like the Holocaust and, murder and war and, human wickedness, you would probably disagree with what I just said. But you know what? The answer is that all of that wickedness can be explained through misalignment. When the head and the heart are not in sync, and it turns out to be an actual frequency. a particular frequency running up and down between the brain and the heart through whatever systems connect the brain and the heart. The HeartMath Institute in Northern California has been studying this phenomenon for 25 years. I think they opened up about 25 years ago. And it is a thing, this connection between the heart and the brain. And when your heart and your brain are connected to one another, your activity is different than when you're just all in your head and your heart's not connected and you're acting from you're impulsing from your negative emotions. We should learn that we should never, ever, ever elect a leader who is not in alignment with himself, whose head and heart are not connected. Now, some people may resonate with, I don't want to name names. I don't want to name names. I don't want to get politically specific about anything. But there's a particular one of them. So I have deep objections to both parties. Deep, deep, deep objections to both parties. Although I recognize that the system is trying to bang it out, I just think that it otherizes the factions, the way factions developed after our forefathers designed our governmental system. The factions, the way they have risen, is actually a bit of a problem. They are otherizing the other party, you know? And the polarity in the field is actually the enemy. The polarity, not the other person. The polarity itself. There is no us and them. There is no us and them. Now, it still kind of seems like there's an us and a them because, well, I'm in this country and they're in that country, and depending on how you're focused, it seems like we are us and they are them. But the problem is that we are all us and we are all in this together, and if human beings cannot figure out how to behave globally and interact and intermix and interrelate and intercreate harmoniously, then we are doomed, because we are all in this together, and there is only one of us, and she is mankind. Well, there's a lot more than just mankind, obviously. There's all of the non-human beings. My alarm's going to go off in a couple of minutes. So, let's see what I can say, and then I'm gonna hang up for the day. It's a little bit hard for me when we're acting too early. Tomorrow I may do it again because I may go play golf. Oh, my alarm's going off. I shouldn't have a snooze on that. Here, let me pause this. I'm going to make a phone call. I'm back. I just took a brief break to make a egg sandwich for my husband who just left for the golf course. And I've got to find my way back to who am I? Well, I was listening to an Abraham just now, and the whole the whole clip was about momentum, which is actually a very profound subject. I understand what she's saying about momentum. It's because of your design that your momentum works the way that it does. All you really need to do is cease the contradictory, negative momentums, and anyway, I'm actually not really feeling the space right there to talk about that some more. I gotta go do my irrigation. I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna ponder some more who am I? Who am I? And what are we going to do about this situation we're in? I think we're in a situation where, first of all, I think we've been genetically modified by somebody from another planet would have done it some 200,000 years ago. And we've got a really, really, really interesting history of colonization and on planet Earth since then. A lot of interesting things that we need to go back and re-look at. The idea of just accepting the old story and not opening up to all the possibilities. I also believe that we don't need to be on fossil fuels. That we have been sold a bill of goods on that one. And that when we break free from that trap, that our future actually looks quite bright. But what's going to happen, there's going to be probably more and more instances of the cult situation as groups are able to go off and do their own thing. That phenomenon we're going to need to understand. But we got a very bright future. We just have to get off fossil fuels and understand our own flippin' nature. The nature of ourselves, the nature of source energy, the nature of the matrix, the connected divine quantum Planck field wish-granting matrix that we abide in and are embedded in and are one with. I haven't said this yet today, but I demark the universe into two aspects. There are two aspects of the same universe, so it's not a different thing, but these two aspects are the formless and the form. The formless is all the Plancks. It dances its way into apparent form. You are actually the formless. And that's the trick. Which one are you identifying with? Are you identifying with the formless or are you identifying with the form? Because I'm telling you, the form is changing. The form will always change. It's part of the Bashar's fifth rule. Everything changes except for the laws. There is nothing you can do to change that. Yeah. So I think I'm going to leave you with that because I'm thinking about irrigation and I'm thinking about all kinds of stuff and I'm not really, my head isn't in the game like I wish it was. But I'll be back again tomorrow because I got to keep doing this. I stopped for like 1 minute and then I could feel the genuine impulse to keep doing this. It's like, no, this is what I should keep doing. Get up early, make my recording, post it to the internet, go live my life. It's like an oral meditation, and I do it for me. I've been saying all along, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for me. And then when just for a minute I thought I wasn't producing what I needed to produce, I decided to quit for a minute. And I quit, and I find out that it's not about the production at all. It's for me. I do this for me. And for some reason I am compelled to record it and post it too. Because perhaps someday I want others to know who I was and what I was saying about the world. So anyway, I'll be back tomorrow to say it some more. And until then, you do the best you can with what you got, okay? You're all right. We're all right. And we're going to talk more tomorrow about just how, where, and why we are all right. And until then, may the source be with you. That's pretty corny, isn't it? I'm going to have to change that.